Okay. All right.
And just so you know, my philosophy is that we're all grown-ups, so you can manage your screen, your microphone, all that kind of stuff. I hate like muting everybody. So if there's somebody's dog barking and it lasts for 5 minutes, I'll mute everybody. But other than that, I want you to take care of yourself. And I want to encourage you and invite you to keep your camera on. Also, I mean, you can keep yourself unmuted unless there's stuff going on in your background there. Welcome, everybody. As we're coming in here, I'll stop sharing the screen for a moment. And what we're doing is in the chat, if you want to chat something that you're grateful for, what are you grateful for today? And this is how we kind of get a rolling start here. As people are joining us, they'll chat in what they're thankful for. It's just a great way to focus our minds on the positive before we dive into things. Okay. Now, also, before we get into the content, we want to play a little bit. Keep on, if you want to put something else, you can put more than one thing that you're grateful for. I'm going to do an activity I call Blink. Blink, basically, in just a moment, I'll ask everybody to turn off their cameras, and then I'll make a statement. And if it applies to you, or you can say yes to that statement, whatever it is, you turn on your camera, show your face, and then we'll turn it off again and do a couple of rounds of that. So let me ask you this. Go ahead and turn off your cameras. And I'll do that too. Now, here's an example. Turn on your camera if you had more than 1 cup of coffee this morning. More than 1 cup of coffee. All right. So we got a few coffee drinkers. Turn on your camera if you just had 1 cup of coffee. You limit yourself. Turn on your camera if if you had 0 warm beverages, no coffee, no tea. Turn on your cameras if you had 0 warm beverages today. Okay. All right. Next question. I want to go ahead and turn off your cameras, and I want you to turn on your camera if you slept past 6:30 in the morning. If you slept past 6:30 in the morning, turn on your camera. Lucky, you must not have a 9-year-old. So, Annie, what we're doing is we're playing a game called Blink, and you turn off your camera, and then if you can say yes to a question, then you turn on your camera. Let's see. Let's go to turn on your camera if you have more than 1 pet. More than 1 pet. Now, and I know some of you are in rural areas. Livestock does not count as pets. Although some horse people would fight me for that one. Okay, turn off your cameras. Turn on your cameras if you spend more than 4 hours a week in virtual meetings or virtual contexts. More than 4 hours a week. Okay, it's good to know. Last one, turn off your cameras. And I want to know, turn on your camera if you're interested in becoming more proficient and more excellent at working in virtual and hybrid contexts. Turn on your camera if that's what you want. Okay. Now, I'm going to assume the best with Kira and Jake. Oh, Kira's on now. Again, I invite you all, as we move through this, unless you've got a fight going on in the background, try and keep your cameras on. It just helps us all connect a little bit more, but I understand if you can't. And also, you're invited to keep yourself unmuted. But what we're going to do today is we are going to share my screen. And what we did, instead of PowerPoint, I'm using a little bit different. I'm using a thing called Mural that can be just like PowerPoint, but it's got all kinds of other stuff as well. So you can see I can move through it like you would a Prezi but we don't get as motion sickness as with Prezi, Blink. But now I want to talk about what's on the table for today. So right now, I want to do a quick, this is what I could do. This is what I'm prepared to talk about. However, this is probably about 12 hours worth of content. And I'm not going to try and cram 12 hours into 50 minutes. You'll all thank me for that. But I'm prepared to talk about 5 pipelines for virtual connection and engagement. Basically, what tools do you have in a virtual setting? I'll use Zoom, but you can cross this over to other platforms as well. How can you build connection and engagement in a virtual platform? So that's the 5 pipelines. Avoiding death by webinar. Raise your hand if you've been to a webinar that was sleep-inducing, where you spend most of your time answering email rather than listening, and you might get a recording of it later. So that's avoiding death by webinar is presentation and facilitation skills. And then we've got getting to outcomes is how does here a premise that I have. If you think virtual meetings were bad, then you probably were experiencing bad meetings before virtual as well. So we're going to talk about, well, how do you get to the outcomes? It actually applies to all meetings, but how can you use the virtual and hybrid context and tools to get to the right outcomes in meetings? And then the last topic that I'm prepared to discuss a little bit is hybrid, in-person, or something else. This is basically the new workplace context. It's hybrid and virtual and in-person as not for meetings per se, but for how do you design your workplace to be a place that, how much of each of those do you want in your mix when you're creating your workplace? So that's what I'm prepared to talk about. What I'd like to do is invite you guys in just a moment. Okay. In just a moment, I'm going to open up some breakout rooms. And what we do is we talk about connection before content is crucial, because if all you do is information transfer, you should have sent an email or just send a PowerPoint deck. But I'm going to send you off into breakout rooms, and I want you each to take a minute. I talked about what I'm prepared to talk about. I want you guys to kind of share, what do you want out of this time? We've got about 50 minutes left. I want to make sure you guys have input on what we cover. So think about, what do you want to cover? What would be the most important of those 4 topics? What's most important for you to walk away with? So do you guys understand what you're going to be doing in your breakout rooms? Give me a thumbs up if you get it. You understand it?
I don't understand like the 4 topics.
Those are the 4 topics. Who was that was asking? Yeah, who just asked that question?
Christopher.
Christopher? Okay, so let me take you back to those 4 topics. And in essence, this is high level. I'm not, I mean, if this sparks curiosity, then choose that. If you think it's most relevant to you, but I don't have time to explain all those. That's what this time is going to be for. So the first one is tools within the virtual and hybrid, or really the virtual environment that build connection and engagement. What are the tips and tricks, the pipelines to create those? Avoiding death by webinar is virtual facilitation and presentation skills. Getting to outcomes is really meeting design and what tools to use when you're putting together meetings virtually. And hybrid, in person, or something else is about designing workplace for your group. Having a way to design your workplace that fits. It's not just all in person or virtual. There's hybrid. There's a whole mix in there, and we can talk about that. Was that helpful? Okay, so connection for content. I'm going to send you out to those breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. There's so each person take about a minute to share what you're interested in, and then we'll come back and learn a little bit more. So should head out there.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
I try to pause the recording during the breakouts because nobody wants to watch me just kind of look at stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we do that all the time too.
Yeah. All right. So everybody's coming back in. It looks like we almost got everybody. So one of the reasons why you'll see in just a minute what I'm going to do with that reflection right there. But I've got probably 12 hours worth of material that talk about creating engagement in virtual and hybrid contexts. And instead of me guessing what you guys want to focus on, I want you guys to have the opportunity to drive your own outcomes. So with that, Trenton wants to do maybe a quick intro and introduction, and then we'll dive into the real content.
All right, perfect. So thanks, John. Yeah, so this is a great opportunity to understand some great engagement. Just last month, I went to a conference and actually had opportunities to eat with John and chat with him for a little bit and some other things. And so John is an expert at experiential education, but is also very good at all of the virtual tools that we like to use. And so this conference had 800 attendees, and I have forgot to look at the stats of the virtual attendees. John probably has that, but he created a great virtual environment for people who could not travel to this conference, but they were able to be engaged with several of the live classes, and they had virtual classes as well. They had a little town that they were going through. It's really kind of cool, but I'm excited to have John here. So our program, the USU Extension Remote Online Initiative or Rural Online Initiative, is a program that teaches people how to work remotely, either as a professional or how to lead remote teams. And so I know we have a couple people on here that may not be familiar with our program, who may have come through John's network or through the AEE, which I shared the link on there as well. We do those programs. We have a lot of resources for people who are looking for work and companies who are looking to lead remote teams. So just a couple announcements for those on the call and for those that may watch this later. We do have a few events coming up that we'd like to make sure people are aware of. Tomorrow we have our remote tea with Mike and Katie. We will have Susan Madsen, who is an amazing, very well-known speaker in Utah, at least. And she's going to be on talking about some really cool stuff. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the link to our events page. We also have a personal finance professional development next Wednesday at noon. We have open houses at Tooele, in Tooele here in Utah, and a virtual meeting, info meeting about our programs on December 21st. I'll put a link to the events page, and that's where you can learn more about all of those. So that's mostly it. But again, I'm glad to have John here. He's been somebody that kind of captivated my interest from before the conference, because he was doing so much with this virtual space, and you'll learn a lot from him. So without taking any more of his time, I'll let you go back at it, John.
Thanks for that. Very kind. In the chat, I'm going to put a link that'll take you to a resource called Mural. And you'll click on that, and then you'll enter in as like some cute animal or something like that, and you can put your name there. And we're going to use this tool. Now, raise your hand if you've ever used like a polling software. Oh, just raise your hand, Mike. Thanks. If you've ever used a polling software in virtual or in person, like Mentimeter or Poll Everywhere, or even Zoom polling. Anybody use those? Yeah, those are all great tools. I'm going to show you some polling software or the approach to voting in Mural. And then we can talk about different ways to use that. But so if you're in there, I'm going to bring you all together. And you should be seeing now in that window, you should be seeing those 4 topics that we talked about. Everybody seeing those? Okay. So instead of, oftentimes when we're doing this, whether you're using PowerPoint or whatever, you'll see a shared screen. Now people can open up a separate window, and we can, instead of sharing the screen, we can keep the gallery view to help increase that face-to-face connection. So now let me show you the voting function here. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start a voting session, and we're going to, you're each going to have 2 votes. And when I start the voting session, oops. Now you can begin voting. It shows you, like, gives you instructions. Now, if you click on the picture, that'll deposit your vote. You get 2 choices. So I'm not asking you to limit your curiosity to 1, but this, we'll see what happens here. So click on one of the pictures of what you want to vote on.
Can you make them bigger?
What?
Can you make them bigger?
Let me.
Maybe not.
I can
What
zoom.
you can do is, there's down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little overhead map that with a plus and minus up on the top. That can do it. Or if you have a scrolling mouse, you can scroll in and out. Let me. Anybody not able to get into the mural?
So we're just voting on the topic that.
Yeah, right. All right, so let's see. Looks like we got a couple people who haven't voted at all. Some people have made, and again, this is just to get a general idea of what you're interested in covering so that we can manage our time to the best output. So all you got to do is click on it, click on a picture, and then if you right click, you can get rid of your vote too. If it's something that that's not one thing that you want to cover.
We're voting for 2 of them, right?
Yep, you get 2 votes. If you want 2 votes, I mean.
I voted for 2.
All right. So you notice you all have cute little names. Visiting bee, visiting owl, visiting elephant. Okay. So I'm going to close down the voting in just a few seconds here, and then you'll get to see kind of, this gives me an idea.
Can we see your screen?
My screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what it looks like to me. You can see right here, I can't see what you voted for, but I can see who didn't have any votes or who has voted. Looks like Visiting Owl walked away from the screen for a little bit. And now when I end voting, here, I'll stop share. I'm going to end voting and then end session for everybody. Now you can get to see, do you guys see up on your screen what the results were?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Right. So I see there's like 2 topics that are running ahead of the game. We got the 5 pipelines and we got getting to outcomes. So I want to do another quick vote, and that is focus, vote on our focus. So I'm going to bring you on over to the next screen, and we're going to do another vote, and you should be overseeing deep versus wide. So now we get to decide, do we want to go deep into one topic, or do we want to go broadly across those 2 top topics? And we're going to do another vote. And let's see. And in a moment, let's see, you got images, entire canvas. Nope, I want to do, so I'm going to limit it. Before you could vote anywhere on the canvas. Now I'm going to limit it. So you can only vote on those pictures. So again, go ahead and vote. Do you want to go deep or wide? And I accidentally, you can vote any way you want. If you want to go deep and wide, I forgot to limit it to 1 vote this time. But
I was going to say, I'm guessing we don't get 2 votes, right?
Well, you can if you want. I forgot to limit it to 1. But if you want to just use one, if you want to be a little bit devious and mess with my mind, you can vote for
This
both.
isn't Georgia.
Or
You can't vote
if
more
you
than
really
once.
want to maximize your vote, you can vote twice on the same one. So that'll maximize. You can put 2 votes on the same thing. You decide what you want to do with your vote, but I'm only going to give you more like 10 more seconds. All right. End the voting session. All right. So we got everybody wants to go deep. So we're going to go deep into 5 pipelines. That sound like a good plan for everybody? All right. Let me take back control. And I want to show you something real quick before we go into it. What I'd like you to do in just a moment, I'm going to release you. I want to show you another great piece of this, which is what makes this like a whiteboard on steroids. So can you guys see my screen right now? All right. So if you double click in when I release you, when I double click on the screen, you get a Post-it note. Now you guys are seeing, I want you guys to see, you have 2 choices up here. You can do Post-it notes or text, and you can do icons. So if you click on the icon, you choose one of these, and let's say like you want to affirm something that somebody said, click the check mark, and then you move it over to their comment. So that's a way that we can get additional input. So all I want you to do is double click on the screen and then type your name and or a greeting. And let me release you so that you can do that. Now just type anywhere on there, put a Post-it note. Can you guys click on there yet?
Mm-mm.
There you go. I'm seeing. Yeah, you're not going to break it. So go ahead and just post anywhere on there. The cool part is once we start getting into the topics, you guys are going to build your own handout. So what I'll do is when we're done, I'll download this into an interactive PDF. So any links that we put on here, any links that are already on here, they'll be hot. I'll send you guys, actually, I'll probably send Trenton the document and then he can send it off to everybody else. Does that make sense, Trenton? Did I just volunteer you for something?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right.
My thing is grayed out. I can't move. I can't click on any of the stars or the sticky notes. This is Christopher.
The
Yeah,
star or up on the top left.
Yeah,
And
it's all grayed out. I can't click on it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that, me too.
Try refreshing your page.
Okay.
And if that doesn't work, you might come back as a new character. That's okay. I don't get too attached to those characters.
I guess I'm gonna be a visiting panda instead of ladybug now.
You got the cool one. It's amazing how competitive some people get on their characters. Does that work out for, let's see, was Steven?
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually go by Brent, but
Well, can you change do you know how to change your name in Zoom?
yeah, but my company doesn't allow me to have the Zoom app, and so every time I go in, it goes different. So it goes
Okay.
with my official profile.
Got it,
is.
got it, got it.
That's all right.
So, but you know, let me see if I can rename you. Yeah, so you like to go by what?
Brent.
Brent?
Sticky note right next to the deep.
Oh. Okay,
You're on there as Brent.
yeah. Everybody get a chance to put a note up there?
I'm somewhat related to Trenton.
That's what I hear. I hear he's your much, much, much younger brother.
Yes, he is. But he's got a grayer beard than I do. Because he grew up.
Okay. So we're going to head on down to, I'm bringing you down with me to a discussion place to talk about the 5 pipelines. And in just a moment, we're going to go back out into our breakout rooms. And I want you to talk about what tools do you currently use to build connection and engagement when you're doing virtual stuff. And what we can, well, at the end, we may get to talking how hybrid's a little bit different. But right now, what tools do you currently use to suck people in to your meetings or to your classes or to your workshops? So I'll stop sharing. And let's go to the breakout rooms. And if there is, let's see, we had, let's see. All right, we'll open up all those rooms. We are going to take about 7 minutes. And what I'd like you to do is, as you're discussing in your breakout rooms, put a Post-it note up in there. Okay. Put a Post-it note in that area that says about pipelines to connection and engagement, and do one topic per one Post-it note per idea. So you're going to talk about what cool tools you currently use and put a Post-it up. You guys know what you're doing for your breakout rooms? You good? Thumbs up or hands up if you're good. All right, 7 minutes. I'll let you know how time progresses, but this is just, it's getting ideas out there. It's divergent thinking. So as many ideas of cool tools. See you soon. Okay. Josh and Annette, you should have invitations to go down there now. There you go. Yay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Should see more people in about 15 seconds. And here they come. Welcome back, everybody. And what I want to do, just take a couple of minutes and let me share my screen real quick, because what I'm going to ask you to do is take a look at all the stuff that's up there. Great ideas. This is why we use the wisdom of the room. And what I want you to do is take an icon. If it's something like, yeah, I'd like that one, that's really good, put a check mark by it. Check mark comes out here, and then I can come up here and say, like breakout rooms with purpose. I'm into that. That works for me. Or if you've got a question like, wow, I wonder what this is, there's my question mark, and I can come down here and say, I want to know more about Goose Chase. So what I'd like you to do is go, just take a couple of minutes. You can do this quietly. You could ask questions. You could say, hey, what about this? Tell me a little bit more about this one. But explore the space a little bit to and share your perspective on it. So using the icons. So while I'm at it, who put Goose Chase up there? Trenton, tell me about Goose Chase.
So this was something that I learned at the AAE conference. Went to a workshop where we actually did Goose Chase. It's a scavenger hunt type app, and you can create like different projects or different scavenger hunts. And it's not just finding things, but you know, ours, one of the tasks that we could complete was create a video of you playing air guitar. So we pulled up some Boston and, you know, did some air guitar, and, you know, and then you send that video into the back into the thing and you get points for it. So,
Yeah.
it's like you can go and take a picture of such and such or something like that. It's really fun.
Yeah, there's a couple of great companies. One's called Social Scavenger that puts up whole events, and they used to do it as an in-person thing. And then when with COVID, they turn it into some amazing virtual events. They have leaderboards and all that kind of stuff. So anybody else, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question. We're going to open up for a little bit, and then I'll share some buckets to put these in. I'll share my 5 pipelines. But right now, what questions do you have? This is great stuff.
I see there is a question mark on the waterfall in chat, and I got that from a colleague of mine. I teach a class with childcare providers, and we ask them to stay engaged, and so they need to give an answer. But if the first person gives an answer in the chat, then the rest of them just copy and okay. So if you say waterfall, they all put their answer in the chat, but they don't hit enter until I tell them to. And then when they hit enter, then all of the answers fall. And yeah,
I'm trying. I've got one here someplace. Oh, here it is. So let's do it real quick just to demonstrate. In the chat, what I'd like you to do, and this is what makes it a waterfall, is don't hit enter until I say. So first question, type this in, but don't hit enter. What is the most eaten food in the world? Most eaten food in the world. Type it in, but don't hit enter. And I don't know is a valid answer. And we'll hit enter in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you notice, if you're looking at, it looks like a waterfall in the chat. So you can come up, and it's a great way to do that kind of stuff. One more question or comment on something that you see in there. A question mark next to Miro. Miro is basically another version of Mural. And they're about the same, a couple of little different features, but it's the same sort of interactivity, whiteboard on steroids. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I obviously know what exercise break means, but I'm wondering exactly how much or what kind would you do in a meeting?
So I try and I, will anybody else have a general rule of thumb? Kira, do you have, is that your question, or I noticed your hands up?
That's my question.
Oh, that's your question. Okay. So for me, I use Flippity. I saw somebody put Flippity up there, and I created in Flippity, which is a great tool for teachers. It's a randomizer, and I put a bunch of different, this is the wheel of exercises, wheel of movement. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to spin the wheel, and then everybody, you can stay seated or stand up, but everybody kind of do a calf stretch. And you can stand up. I'll that's the best way to get the calf stretch. And sometimes I won't even use the wheel. I'll just say, everybody stand up and walk around your chair twice. Let me see. So that is the wheel of movement. You can make anything you want in there, but the idea is your cognitive capacity plummets after 45 minutes of sitting still. There's an old adage before the brain science that said your brain can only take in as much as your butt can endure. So, oh, by the way, the answer is rice to our question there. Thank you for somebody that Googled it. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to open up my 5 pipelines, and I'll bring you down there just so it's easy for you to find. And I'll go over these things. And basically, these are just 5 buckets that a lot of what you put up there fit in these buckets. So I can tell it's nothing new to you. Let me release you all. And if you want to put, as ideas come in your head, post them up there if other things come in. So first of all, visual tools. And we've used those throughout this. Raise your hand, give me a thumbs up. Anything that's built in my buckets, anything that's built into the platform. And there's different things in different platforms, different sorts of bells and whistles. But if you're using a video platform, you always have what's on your screen. So for instance, I can do this. you're on mute, or can you hear me now? So this is visual as well. And this is a whiteboard, so you can write whiteboard stuff in here. Another thing, Chad Littlefield brought up this idea is, instead of using a PowerPoint slide, write your information, write a quote, put a picture on a piece of paper and use that, hold that up in the screen. It mixes up the visual stimulus a little bit. So that's when we talk about, go ahead, Brent.
I was in a meeting with our innovation team for Big Iron Mountain, and made a suggestion. The director of innovation, she did exactly that. She popped up a little sign that said, "I love it," or something like that.
Right.
Apparently, every time someone comes up with a good idea, they get that from Nicole.
Right. That's great.
It was just like all of a sudden, my heart feels good and everything else because I got a kudos.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to, I think it was Trenton that put in there. I used to have one of those when I was a kid, a little flip sign while my parents were driving that had all kinds of messages on it. So, all right, the next bucket is what I call nonverbal tools. And it's not the best title, but the idea is anything that's not in the visual screen, it's all the bells and whistles that are alongside. For instance, in Zoom, you've got reactions down at the bottom there. And so you can go in there and know that, like, if I do a hand clap, it shows up on my screen, but only stays there for 5 seconds. Now, if you're using, if you raise your hand, the hand will stay up there, but it moves you. Let me show that to you real quick. Just because it's really cool tool when you're doing, when you're facilitating. So whenever somebody raised their hand, somebody raise your hand and you'll see what happens on my screen. Notice that Trenton went to the top left. Okay. Jordan, are you playing with the gesture recognition piece? Mm-hmm. So gesture recognition, that's basically, if you have it turned on, when you raise your hand, it'll automatically put your hand up. But thumbs up, same thing will happen. And but it takes too long for a thumbs up. So if I say thumbs up, if you like this, I'd have to wait 5 seconds or so for any kind of feedback. The hand raise is really good because anytime you raise your hand. Notice that 2 things happen. One, you go to the top left of the gallery, and also your raised hand goes to the top of the participant list. So it creates a queue for your question and answer. So that's some of the other nonverbal thing. I include the waterfall quiz in chatting, or asking people to do things in chat. You'll notice, for those of you who got here early, I asked you all to chat in what you're grateful for. You can get all kinds of reactions and responses and just have them chat. Or I've had groups that we create a language. Know now that with your reactions, if you hit the 3 dots, you get the whole choices of emojis. So we would create a feedback system of emojis within Zoom. Choose 5 things that everybody agrees on what they mean. And then you can throw up those emojis at any time. If you're going to be meeting with a group for more than 1 session or for a really long session, it's one of the things that could really make it worthwhile. So for those 2 things, this is one of the things we've learned about engagement in the virtual context. Now, when I would do keynotes, I would want to make sure I would do something that would either change the topic or change the visual field or whatever every 15 minutes or so. In the virtual world, we want to make sure that they type, talk, click, do something every 3 to 5 minutes. Now, that seems like it might be extreme if you're used to doing other things, other ways of presenting. And if you're like in a great conversation, it's popping back and forth, you don't have to worry about that. But if you get up there and you talk for more than 5 minutes, people are on their emails. That's why I avoid calling things webinars anymore, because the expectation is that it's passive. And if you'll notice, when you weren't off talking in breakout rooms or voting on something, I'm constantly saying, hey, give me a hand, raise your hand or thumb up or put something in the chat. And that's to get people off. If it's 3 minutes, they're thinking about their email. If it's 5 minutes, they're on their email or Facebook or whatever. They're on another window. So that's just a rule of thumb. Try and ask them to do something, to move every 3 to 5 minutes. Third pipeline, small groups, small group process. And you'll see, like you guys, there's small group functions in the Google Meets and in Zoom. Raise your hand if you're in Microsoft Teams. Okay, there's not a straightforward way to do breakouts in Microsoft Teams, but there's ways that you can work around it by creating separate threads. So it's doable, it's just not as obvious. But small groups, it creates another context for people to contribute. There's 12, 13 people in here, and some people don't want to contribute verbally, or, you know, they don't want to jump in with this size group, but you put in a group of 3 or 4, and now that opens up their desire and their ability to contribute. So changing the format, if you've got a large, you know, 50, 100 person program going, then you're definitely going to want to change the size of the interactions. Another cool thing, like in Mural, I've done where we've done some work in Mural already. They're familiar with it. What I'll do is I'll assign each breakout room a color Post-it note, so that not only are they in the breakouts, but you can tell which breakout room is contributing to what. Interactive tools. And you'll notice I put some links in here to Flippity and to Mentimeter. Those are my go-to ones. But, you know, it's this idea of what if you expand your platform, instead of just using Mural, adding 1, maybe 2 other interactive possibilities. Now, when I first started doing this, man, I learned about this, and I'd have like 5 different platforms that people are moving through. That's too many, too much of a learning curve. And I just got excited about it. Now you'll notice I'm pretty much sticking with Mural for us, even though there's opportunity to take you to Flippity, or I did go to Flippity, so I cheated, or Mentimeter, or Poll Anywhere, or Google Google Polls, or Google Slides, all that kind of stuff. Christopher, I see that hand.
So you're basically just talking about like things that you can do to keep people's attention, as well as keep them focused on the topic of what you're trying to present.
Well, and I would flip it, and I would say, what do you want to accomplish? Start with your outcome. Start with the end in mind, as they say. And then whatever your current platform doesn't do, find something that does. So I try not to be just kind of random saying, raise your hand right now, even though somebody caught me on that earlier. Or let's just go to Flippity. Movement is important because it brings them back cognitively. Anything that I do, I want to have totally attached to my outcomes. Does that make sense, Christopher?
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So interactive tools are a way to expand the functionality of your program. Brent, you have a question?
I would throw out there as well, if you're just going to tell people stuff, send an email.
Yeah.
But the reason to have a meeting is because you want input from other people.
Yeah, and that's in that other getting to outcomes. That's one of my points there. If it's just information transfer, send the PowerPoint deck, send a memo. But there's 5. I think I put down 5 different potential reasons to have a meeting, and one of them is don't do it just to transfer information. But yeah, the last piece, the last pipeline, is asynchronous and ongoing tools. So this is great to do pre-work and to do post-work. For instance, I've got Mural, Mighty Networks, and some other things up there. But the idea is this Mural, I'm going to put a link to back to this Mural in the PDF I send out. This Mural is persistent. You can come back to this and review it. You can come back and add things. If you wanted to do, let's say you're doing a project work, and I've used this for projects, this becomes home for it. And when we do our meetings, everybody goes to the Mural and has it open alongside. We look at tasks, we look at links that they put in there. This is a really powerful tool, like Canvas, or excuse me, like Miro. Canvas is a great tool for like if you're looking in the world of LMS, Canvas is a really popular tool, and there's others that are out there that give you access. If you're in the higher education, Canvas is one of the ones that's out there. There's some other things as well. But before we end, what I wanted to do is answer Christopher's question, and then I want you guys to be thinking about what you walked away with. Christopher, what question do you have?
I got a question about Miro because I was using it and I was trying to import into it, but it wouldn't let me import my graphics. But I was on the free version, so maybe that was the issue.
Right. On sometimes it's the free version. Sometimes it's what graphic you're trying to import. Sometimes they're too big and the either Miro or Mural will choke on it. But again, the free versions of all this stuff have changed. Hit me up later and I've got some ways to connect with me if you want to find out how to get a full version of Mural for free. There's a way. So, but what I'd like to do is take you down to one of my favorite things to do is talk about a quote from Emerson. Before you leave, I want you to put a Post-it note up there. What has become clear to you? Emerson used to greet people on the sidewalk as friends. He'd say, what has become clear since last we met? Not exactly when you can walk by. I want you to put a Post-it note up here, anywhere around this thing, of what became clear in the last 55 minutes that we spent together. And if you can help out, where did you hear about this event? Kind of put a separate note or put it in, actually put it in the chat. Where did you hear about this event? This will help Trenton get some data about what we're doing. So on the Post-it note, what became clear? And in the chat, where did you hear about it? So Kira, you've been to a few of these of mine. Is this, ain't something different become clear this time? And go ahead and keep putting Post-it notes up there of whatever. I want to make sure that there's over on the right-hand side, bottom right-hand side of the mural, as you're posting up there, I want to share my screen real quick. There's two things to be aware of. One, if you want additional resources, click on the additional resources thing and you'll see what you can, additional things you can do. If you want some thought partnership and advising on both designing virtual and hybrid stuff or delivering these things, click on that advising and guidance and you can set up a free 45-minute session with me to talk it through. So with that, we're right at the top of the hour. You can hang out here and put more things that became clear to you. If you want to steal from somebody else that you see up there that became clear, feel free to steal. Or put a check mark next to it. And I want to toss it back over to Trenton. I'm hanging out here for a little bit, but yeah, thank you guys very much. Very fun seeing people who are taking the virtual and hybrid world seriously.
Awesome. Thank you, John. This has been an excellent interactive demonstration of how to make, your meetings a little bit more exciting. That was probably the main reason I went to the AEE conference, was to learn how to make Zoom a little more fun. So, because Zoom can often be very boring. So, thank you, John. And yeah, so I'll hang around as well. So if there's any other questions, then we can. If not, and if you haven't had lunch, go eat lunch. And if you're at a later time zone, enjoy whatever.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Open it up for questions. We'll stop the recording. And what questions do you have?